Have you ever lived through that strange second when the world seems to hold its breath? The room grows enormous, time stalls, and something inside you whispers, "This isn't just another ordinary moment." Hold that thought, because today we'll open a door most people prefer to keep locked. What really happens when the body falls silent, but the mind still hints that something inside remains alive. I promise that by the end of this video, you'll never see the word death in the same dark shade again. Before any final word, picture yourself gazing at your reflection in an old mirror. You blink, and suddenly it isn't just your face staring back, but a mosaic of possibilities in which every version of you breathes across different latitudes of the universe. Robert Lanza, physician, researcher, and advocate of ideas that prod mainstream science, calls this panorama biocentrism, a bold proposal that puts life, not inanimate matter, at the center of everything. According to him, consciousness isn't a byproduct of the brain, it's the entire stage on which the play unfolds. Keep that possibility in hand, because from here, every breath of the script weaves questions that quantum physics, neurology, and even ancient philosophy mumble without reaching agreement. When you lay your head on the pillow and close your eyes, the day's memories mingle with dream improvisation. Who can guarantee that this inner stage isn't, in fact, the real world changing costumes? Lanza notes that space and time are constructions of the observer. If you are the observer, you're also the architect of your own boundaries. Feel the gravity of that idea in your skin. Think of small daily rituals, the smell of morning coffee, the cold touch of a phone in your hand, the distant hiss of a bus passing down the street. Each sensation depends on the senses, but also on how you interpret electrical signals dancing in the brain. If the projector shuts down, the film ends, unless it simply moves to another theater, waiting for you in the next seat. Within this web of questions, the promise remains. Throughout this conversation, we'll unravel the notion that the last heartbeat is a full stop, and we'll do it without tangled formulas or technical jargon. Straight talk, like placing a huge topic on the kitchen table beside bread and butter. By the way, if curiosity just raised its hand inside you, jot a comment with that persistent doubt. You'll help shape future episodes. Let's speak briefly about how traditional science views consciousness. For a long time, the explanation felt comfy. Neurons fire, synapses glow, stories unfold. When the current stops, everything goes dark. Yet advances in neuroscience have begun poking holes in that tale. Coma patients report vivid memories. Studies on extrasensory perception shine a light on the nagging question: if the brain is the host, who is the guest? For Lanza, the key isn't where consciousness dwells, but who assigns an address to everything that exists. He likens the phenomenon to a video game that only takes shape when the console is on. Without consciousness, there are no walls, no stars, not even darkness. That perspective rearranges the universe's hierarchy: first life, then matter. And if life comes first, the transition called death destroys nothing. It merely moves the story to a different shelf. Take a deep breath and feel the weight of that revelation. You might be living just one chapter in a saga that never ends. Like a book with infinite pages, every turn brings new settings, though the protagonist remains recognizable in essence. If the idea stirs you, save this video to revisit whenever your mind seeks fresh clues. Let's talk about small shocks. Notice how déjà vu can be a clue to something larger. You walk down an unfamiliar street and feel you've trodden that ground before. The usual explanation blames a memory glitch, but biocentrism opens another window. What if your consciousness, multiple and continuous, has brushed that scene on a parallel layer? The shiver might echo a fresh memory from another dimension. Science still raises eyebrows, yet particle experiments show that the mere presence of an observer changes an object's behavior. They call it wave function collapse. Lanza extends the concept to daily life. If the gaze creates reality, shutting the physical eye can't erase it. Reality simply adopts a new form, ready for another angle. While these ideas ferment, note how Toltec myths, Buddhist sutras, and mystical Christian passages all echo the same melody biocentrism translates into scientific language. that reinforces the intuition that we're not alone on this cosmic stage. Soon we'll see parallel universes stride on stage with ease. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. One click and you'll follow lines of thought able to turn nights upside down in the best way. Knowing the unknown brings relief, because fear often sprouts from what we don't understand. Settle in. Our next step is to cross the mirror and explore what happens when the reflection decides to walk out of the frame. Before we go on, inhale deeply and notice how the air has traveled through stars, seas, and other beings before touching you. Nothing disappears, everything transforms. When the final exhale arrives, we may become a breeze carrying memories to another corner of infinity. If that idea resonates, type cycle in the comments. Picture closing your eyes for the last time and, without any transition snap, waking in a room with the same gentle morning light, the same coffee aroma, but small details switched around. The painting's color has changed, the mug bears a design never there before. Even the birdsong seems to chant a new melody. That simple image sums up the favorite hypothesis of many physicists studying multiple realities. The universe branches at every choice, creating parallel paths where consciousness continues its narrative without sensing a splice in the reel. If each fork holds a slightly different you, the ultimate farewell might be only the moment the camera cuts to the next scene, keeping the main character in focus, but in a fresh setting. That reading dissolves the idea of complete annihilation, for the end stops being a black screen and becomes a secret passage. No wonder so many near-death reports describe fullness rather than panic. Those who cross the threshold say pain vanishes, time stretches like elastic, and crystalline clarity about every step lived appears. Doctors speak of chemical surges in the brain, yet when patients recount conversations around the surgical table, dialogues impossible to hear with an inert body, the biochemical explanation stumbles. Neurology admits decoding the mind isn't enough to explain who watches the inner show. Mapping electrical discharges shows the dance's pattern, but not the conductor. Precisely in that conceptual void, biocentrism plants its flag. Consciousness isn't a temporary guest of the brain. It's the source granting an address to everything that exists. If it's the stage, dying sounds as natural as changing sets at intermission. You might ask, if consciousness persists, why do we wake without memories of previous lives? Imagine reading 2 novels line by line at once. The plot would turn to chaos. Likewise, carrying an immense stock of memories would hamper adapting to a new body. That's why, researchers say, only threads slip through. A scent triggering unplaced longing, stubborn déjà vu on a never-visited street. An inexplicable certainty you've always known someone. Tiny cracks in logic's cement. Hints the observer has inhabited other stages. See how certain everyday instants seem to defy rules. The microwave clock freezes for a second, then jumps ahead. You hear your name in a crowd, but no one calls. A childhood song plays on the radio seconds after flitting through your mind. Small fissures hint at porous layers in reality. If something similar has happened, share it in the comments. Your accounts weave our collective investigation net and fuel future talks that can ease fear of the unknown. Hold your breath, because now we stitch theory to lab. Quantum entanglement experiments show 2 objects remain connected even across vast distances. Tweak one and the other responds instantly, ignoring the speed of light limit. If microscopic particles keep such intimate dialogue, why would consciousness, perhaps the cosmos's very fabric, be less versatile? Physicists build laser tunnels across deserts and islands, measuring photon pairs' synchrony. Each result strengthens suspicion of an invisible field where all remains in ceaseless conversation. It's no coincidence ancient spiritual traditions talk of a fabric of life or divine breath uniting all things. Science arrives through numbers where myth long sang in metaphor. Change words, change eras. The core persists. We don't walk alone. We're threads of one luminous loom. From that perspective, dying doesn't cut the thread. It merely shifts the frame that holds it. The arts sensed this before lab graphs did. Tales of portals, time jumps, Heroes slain in epic battles and reborn in new worlds are fanciful metaphors for a process that may be literal. Screenwriters lay tracks where characters absorb lessons wrapped in fantastic lightness. Robert Lanza simply put a white coat on the storyline and wrote equations on the back cover. Speaking of equations, recent studies show gamma-wave spikes in animal brains just seconds after cardiac arrest, as if reviewing a condensed synopsis of their lives. Could that flash be the spark lighting the next chapter? Close your eyes a moment and summon your happiest childhood memory. The image remains vivid, intact, though your body is different. That simple time trip proves the mind travels through records immune to wear. If it crosses timelines so easily, who's to say it can't leap beyond biological limits? University corridors now buzz that lab and temple must talk. Terms like quantum spirituality appear at symposia not as exotica, but as research bridges. Death takes on the outline of a season, winter fertilizing soil for the next spring. Knowing this changes how we live. Each act grows more precious when seen as part of a sequence without fixed borders. Turning dread into curiosity is generous service, and you help by sharing this video with someone who needs comfort. If this subject makes your heart beat faster, hit subscribe now so you won't miss a single unfolding moment. In the next chapter, we'll connect hospital reports, quantum foundations, and down-to-earth practices that turn philosophy into daily action, clearing the fog at the finish line and filling it with courage. After all, every new viewpoint widens the horizon and shrinks the fear of crossing the bridge we call the end. Imagine two neighboring laboratories separated only by a narrow hallway. On one side, microscopes track the brainwaves of patients who came back to life after long minutes without a pulse. On the other, virtual telescopes simulate the folding of space-time at a black hole's edge. Scientists who rarely traded notes now bump into each other for quick coffee breaks, realizing their notebooks speak, quite by accident, about the same tireless creature, consciousness, refusing to vanish where mathematics predicted only silence. And so an old question has put on a new suit. What if death doesn't sever the thread, but merely switches the spool? Reread your own mental biography and count how many season finales life has already demanded. The first school, the first love, the first house left behind. Each cycle ended in tears and longing. Yet today, you look back at that internal archive with tenderness, almost laughing at the anxiety you once felt. Biological death may be a distant cousin of those micro-goodbyes. The difference is that in that ultimate instant, we swap the pen of time for one that writes in another grammar. Some call it heaven, others reincarnation. Some prefer the cool elegance of physics, but they all point to the same intuition. Nothing is lost because everything belongs to a grand hall of mirrors. To grasp the trick, consider the holographic principle. Each point in the universe is said to contain the complete picture of the whole, just as a shattered hologram still shows the entire image in every shard. If the cosmos truly works this way, consciousness is the light projecting the picture onto many screens at once. Switching off a screen doesn't dim the lamp. Robert Lanza leans on this metaphor to remind us that the body is a temporary frame, not the spark's source. When the frame breaks, the light simply finds another pane of glass. This line of thought isn't confined to ivory towers. Small children who barely know arithmetic sometimes describe details of cities they've never visited in this life. Vivid dreams of departed relatives leave scents in the room, like a vintage perfume that refuses to fade. People flooded by déjà vu feel the weight of a scene before it happens. These flashes don't prove, but they whisper. Enough whispers create a roar that keeps any honest skeptic awake at night. Yet what good is theory when daily life overflows with bills, lines, and unanswered messages? Here, the crossroads of science and spirituality saves the day, offering simple practices that remind us the now is a passage, not a prison. First tip, breathe mindfully while crossing the street or washing dishes. Feeling air move in and out is like hearing the wing beats of a bird living inside your chest, a sign your body is only the temporary house of that eternal bird. Second, before sleep, softly thank 3 small things that happened today. The smile of a stranger, the smell of fresh bread, the joke that made you laugh on the way home. This ritual trains the brain to seek continuity in details, easing the panic of any bigger farewell. Third practice, talk to someone older about losing friends along the road. Many will say that after the shock, those who passed remain alive in thoughts, songs, or impossible coincidences. Hearing such stories from another mouth reinforces that human experience is a woven fabric. Cutting one thread doesn't make the carpet disappear. If you feel moved, share in the comments the moment you sensed an invisible edge between worlds. These accounts feed a living library of clues that help others rest with lighter heads. Someone may object, comfort isn't proof. Agreed. The point isn't to close the subject, but to open windows in the mind's walls so fresh questions can blow in. Good science isn't scared to question its own certainty, and true faith doesn't fear a microscope. They complement each other like two hands clasping to cross a swaying bridge over a roaring river. Speaking of bridges, not long ago, a team of cardiologists placed visual targets on the ceilings of resuscitation rooms, visible only from above. The idea was simple. If someone left their body during cardiac arrest, they could describe what they saw up there. A few accounts matched with unsettling precision. The team offered no verdict, but admitted the project must continue because the question has outgrown the experiment. Such academic humility is fertile soil, certain to yield future studies that will soon force medical textbooks to open new chapters. While results simmer, living lightly becomes an act of rebellion. By trading fear for curiosity, you rewrite the script we were sold. Be born, work, pay bills, dread the invisible scythe, disappear. Instead, you turn every task into a paragraph of an endless novel. When you understand that farewell is merely a stage change, hugs last longer, apologies come quickly, and that project in the drawer finally takes shape. Affection and courage become twin siblings. Perhaps a residue of fear remains, and that's okay. No one becomes immune to the unknown overnight. Just remember, the heart, that ancient drum, beats in duet with another drum pulsing at the universe's core. When your inner rhythm falls silent, the outer rhythm continues, inviting you to dance in another hall. Picture the scene. The stage lights dim, applause echoes. You slip behind the curtain and step into another brightly lit auditorium, ready for the next act. At that instant, the former audience realizes the show hasn't ended. Only the scenery has changed. If this image brings peace, save the video for stormy days. If doubts linger, jot them down and return later. Each revisit adds a new layer of insight, and if any part of this dialogue sparked hope, share it with someone suffocating under fear of death. Spreading understanding is a simple gesture that reverberates beyond utility bills and the borders of skin. Before I say goodbye, here's a quiet invitation. Subscribe to join us in the next investigations where numbers and metaphors walk side by side. One click, and your voice becomes part of the chorus that questions, dreams, and builds bridges. See you soon. Or perhaps we'll meet again in a laboratory corridor, a fold in reality, or the comfortable silence of thought that carries on after the final word.